What's up, chosen generation? So you guys won't believe what happened. I just made a video for you guys and I forgot to click record. So this is my second go at it. I'll try to be quicker this time because I think it was pretty long the first time. So I'll try to keep the video short so that you guys, watch it instead of saying, "Oh no, it's too long. I'm not gonna watch it." So in the group chat, feel free to tell us how you guys are doing. Feel free to give us updates on how your families are and how school going online and all that stuff. Feel free to do your own videos of any Bible verses you like or anything like that, explaining it to us. Today I want to cover 1 Samuel chapter 24, verses 1 to 7. So I will read it. Can't believe I did not record it the first time around. So it says, "When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, 'Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi.' Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. And when he came to the sheepfolds by the way where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave, and the men of David said to him, 'Here's the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you.' Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe, and afterward David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, 'The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed.' So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way." Alright, so to give a little bit of context for what's going on here, you guys all know the story of David. If not all of you, most of you know. But basically, David, when he was a young boy, when he was a young shepherd, tending to his father's flock of sheep, the prophet Samuel shows up to his house and anoints him as the next king of Israel. But Saul, who we read here, is still the current king of Israel. But he's just strayed from the Lord's way. He's beginning to sin, and he likes to do things for his benefit. God tells him to go into cities and destroy everything, but he goes in and he keeps gold and stuff like that. And he doesn't want to destroy it or something, He's basically straying from the Lord's path. And he's not being obedient. So God decides that he's going to anoint a new king. He sends the prophet Samuel to David's house to get anointed. Eventually, David grows up a little bit and fights Goliath and beats Goliath with the rock, and then eventually he also begins to play the harp for Saul, and with time he becomes a really big commander in Saul's army, and where they come back from battles and everyone chants his name. Everyone goes like Saul kills by the thousands, David by the 10,000s. So we see that little by little, God has been preparing David for the throne. God has been giving him glory in all the things that he does, whether it's playing the harp, whether it's tending to sheep, or whether it's going out in battles. God has always been with him, guiding him, and giving him victories. So what I want to bring to attention today is that although he was anointed and he knew that one day he would be king, he knew that it was not for him to kill Saul. It was not for him to do something like that. He knew that Saul was anointed by God, and with that anointing, he was basically untouchable, because if God anoints you, then it's not on somebody else to try to take that away from you. It's between you and God. He knew that God would have to deal with Saul, and it wasn't for him to try to take that into his own hand, even though Saul was trying to kill him, trying to pursue him. Little by little, I didn't say this, but little by little, Saul, because of all of the women and everything shouting David's name when they came back from battles, Saul became more and more jealous of David, tried to kill him on multiple tries. Eventually, David runs away to the wilderness with all of his men. The men from the army that liked David better than Saul left with him. And they hide in caves, going from cave to cave, just hiding. But what I wanted to bring to attention is the authority part, the anointing part. And when I think of God anointing somebody, immediately I think of our pastor, who has been anointed by God to be a pastor. And that is why there's more responsibility on his shoulders for the church than there is on our shoulders. So with that responsibility comes with respect. So even though our pastor may do things a different way than we would visualize it or we would do it, he's still the pastor. He's still the authority figure. He's still the one that has to basically respond to God at the end of the day, because God gave him the role of pastor. Once you guys or any of you who would become pastors or leaders or something, God's going to cobrar. God's going to ask of you that same thing that he's asking our pastor. So not only is it an anointing to be a pastor, but it's also an authority figure such as our parents. There are so many times where we might not agree with our parents' decisions or what they want to do or what they tell us to do, but they're still our parents, and we need to respect that in the same way that David respected that Saul was anointed by God. With an anointing like that comes an immense amount of trembling and fear, because as you guys see, it said that David, his heart shook. His heart basically condemned him for cutting off a robe. My footnotes here in my Bible say that cutting off the robe is like an act of war against somebody. It's a complete sign of disrespect. So as soon as he did that to the Lord's anointed, right away his heart condemned him, like, no, don't do that. And right away we need to take that for ourselves. Even though we might not be, it's not something so serious as war, as killing each other, but us murmurando or us speaking bad about authority figures is the same way. We're condemning ourselves. God basically put these authority figures, because every authority figure, whether it's parents or pastors or anything, that authority can only come from God. So it stems down from him. So for us to take authority from someone else, it's like we're taking it from God. We're taking it from his hand. That's what my Bible says. My Bible teaches that all authority comes from God. So if David had killed Saul, it's like he's taking it into his own hand, saying, I'm going to be king now. And from the beginning, it was never like that. Even though David was anointed, it would be in the future. It would be when God chose to make him king. So it's just interesting to me. Even though this guy is pursuing him and trying to kill him, he had multiple chances. This isn't the only one. It's the one we read, but there's more where he could have killed Saul, but he chose not to. I think it's very beautiful to see that. And then eventually when Saul does die in battle, along with three of his sons, and David gets the news eventually, David falls down and cries, and he, in the customs of that time, he rips his robe and pour ashes on his head, and he laments, and he goes into mourning for Saul and for Jonathan. And he says that Saul was like a father to him. So even though, a couple of years of Saul trying to kill David, David still basically had his heart broken when he found out that Saul passed away, that Saul died. So I think it's beautiful for us to humble ourselves that way, in the same way David did here. For us to humble ourselves in the way that, even though it's not it might not be the correct way or the right way that somebody's doing something, for us to basically be humble enough to say, you're the authority figure, so whatever you say goes. So I think it's important that we act like that in our walk with Christ. So thanks for watching, guys. Let us know in the group chat or on the comments or anywhere what you guys think. Let us know if you guys have any idea of how we can go about this social distancing thing. Let us know if everyone's safe. Have a good one, guys. Bye.